everyone. So today we are going to take a look at the autobiographical essay for universities in Taiwan and China. And while I haven't listed them, you'll also find that many universities in other countries like Hong Kong and Singapore and even Japan will have very similar requirements for their college admissions essays. So our objective with this particular video is for you to be able to identify and explain all of the required contents for each section of this type of essay. So let's get started. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the content. What information does this essay need to contain? Well, it should contain 4 main sections. So the first section that this essay needs to contain is background. You'll need a paragraph or two that talks a little bit about who you are, your family background, where you've grown up, and maybe just a little bit about where you've attended school. After that, you'll need to talk a little bit about academics and your learning process. This is where you're going to talk about your school experience, focusing mostly on your high school years. You're going to talk about the classes that you've taken, especially if you've taken any AP courses. You're going to talk about any particular academic honors. So if you've achieved honors or high honors in X number of semesters, be sure to include that. And if you've done any study outside of school that would be directly related to your chosen major, then that's something else that you might want to mention. But this section is really all about how have you prepared yourself academically to attend university and study the major that you've chosen. The third section is the abilities and activities section. And so when you look at this section, you're going to list particular abilities that you're proud of. That might be leadership, that might be perseverance, that might be a lot of things. But then you're going to think about how have you demonstrated those particular qualities. So if you write that you're a strong leader, then you'll need to include examples in your essay of your leadership experience and how you've exercised that. So for example, you might write about the fact that you are president or vice president of your class, or that you are the captain of XYZ athletic team, or that you're one of the executive committee members. P.S. Please don't say execoms outside of TCIS. Nobody knows what that is. But you're part of the executive committee of that particular club or group. And what have you done as a leader? How have you contributed? And then lastly, you're going to write just a short paragraph or two about your future plans. So why have you chosen this particular university and this particular major, and how is that preparing you for your life after university? And of course, you should always include evidence for each claim that is made. So if you say, I have a lot of leadership experience, then you've got to give evidence. You've got to give examples of how you've acted as a leader. If you say you have good time management, then you need to write about one or more specific examples of you using good time management. And then lastly, make sure that you always, we use this phrase, connect the dots. We don't want your admissions officer, admissions counselor, to have to guess at what you're saying or try to figure out how a particular example supports a claim that you've made. So make sure that you do enough explaining and that you give enough details that it's easy for your admissions counselor to follow along with the line of reasoning that you're creating. So now let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about the context of this essay. You'll hear me say this pretty much every unit, but every admissions essay is basically a commercial. This is your 1,000 words or however many words you write. This is your opportunity to sell yourself, to convince the university, this is why you should choose me. And so it's important that we give those universities the best picture of us, both as a student and as an individual. One thing that's important to note about this particular essay, universities in Chinese-speaking countries, they are much more interested in your family background, in your upbringing, in your early childhood, than schools in most other locations. Schools in the US and the UK, they are mostly concerned with your teenage years, specifically your high school years. Whereas universities in Taiwan and China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, East Asian universities in general, they kind of feel like your early childhood and your upbringing has a very important impact on the person that you become. And I think that's fair. So these universities are a little bit more interested in your family background, like who are your parents, where are they from, where have you grown up, what languages do you speak in the home, do you have any siblings, are they older or younger? Those things really don't matter in most of your other essays unless one of those people or experiences has played a huge part in the career or the university that you've selected. But for this essay, it is very important that you share about your family and your early childhood. And then lastly, this kind of ties back to that first point. Be sure to choose the achievements and skills and activities that you're going to list. Choose them wisely. I want you to think back to your brag sheet. Think back to your brainstorming activities, that essence objects activities, and that character traits activity. In fact, you might even find it helpful to go back to that first unit and reread some of those things that you wrote, so that you can make sure that as you're talking about achievements and skills, make sure that you're highlighting the character that you want the universities to see. So we've talked now about the what of your essay, the content, what you're going to write, what you're going to include. We've talked a little bit about the why and the context, what's important to these particular universities. Now let's talk about the how, the organization of your writing. I want to make very clear that this is not a 5-paragraph essay. You've been writing these 5-paragraph informative and argumentative essays with an intro, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion for years now. That is not what we are doing here. This essay is going to be, yes, very straightforward, nonfiction, informational text, but it's not going to be intro body conclusion. If you think back to those first slides, you're going to have 4 sections. So it doesn't really fit into a 5-paragraph model. Now, I will say you may use short sections of narrative storytelling. You might tell a sentence or 2 long story about something that you've done, an activity that you've participated in, some sort of problem that you've solved in one of those skill sections. But storytelling is not the focus of this essay. We want this essay to be mostly fact-based, informational. Who are you? Where are you coming from? How have you prepared for this? Why are you a good fit for this university? One thing that is unique about this style of essay is that you may choose to use bullet points or headings to organize the different sections of the text. When you read the essays in the sample folder, you'll find that some of them use bullet points and some of them don't. But it makes it much easier, I think, for the reader to see where you're going and to see the transitions between sections of your text if you do use those bullet points. So let's stop for a minute and check in. Here are the things that you should be able to do at this point. Can you name the required content for an autobiographical essay for Taiwan or China? What are those 4 sections? Can you explain how to choose the best content for your essay? What's important to these universities? What should your essay include? And then lastly, are you clear on the composition requirements? What should you do? What shouldn't you do? What may you choose to do? If you can do all of those things, then you are definitely ready to move on to the next step. The next step is going to be annotating a sample essay. So go ahead and click in the unit overview document to open those annotation instructions. Go choose a sample essay to annotate. You can work alone or you can work with a partner, but each of you must submit your own annotated copy of that essay. That's it for now. Bye.